little hotter, a little more intense.
It's a little fire there.
It is. And I tell people the first time they taste it, I'm like, you're going to get that punch, that heat up front, but the complexity of the flavors that are in that bourbon, just with the age and the proof, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And you can always add a little water if you need to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Who does that?
Welcome to another trip down the Bourbon Road with your hosts, Jim and Mike. So grab a glass of your favorite bourbon and kick back.
We would like to thank Tommy and Gwen Mitchell from Logheads Home Center for supporting this episode of the Bourbon Road. Find out more about their fine rustic furniture at logheadshomecenter.com. As you know, Mike and I like to mix it up a little bit, and today we have a real treat for you. We head into Louisville to sit down with Chef Joshua Moore. Josh is the executive chef and managing partner at Volare Italian Restaurant. My mouth is just watered thinking about this place. If you're in Louisville or have plans to visit the Bourbon Trail, I would highly recommend a meal at Volare. Their menu is to die for, and it offers something for everybody. They also have over 100 fine bourbons to choose from at their bar. Now, Josh, he plates some pretty amazing food, and you would expect that from a Chop champion. He was able to outcook his competitors and bring the trophy back to Louisville. He even managed to sneak a little bourbon into one of his dishes to snatch the win. Now, why don't you guys just join Mike and I as we sit down with Josh to sip a little bourbon, chat about his success at Volare, the farming life, and his love for that good brown water. Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Shannon.
I'm Mike Hyatt.
And this is the Bourbon Road. And today, Mike, where are we?
Volare Restaurant.
Who do we have with us?
We got Josh Moore, the famous chef here in Louisville, right? Probably world famous now, right?
I don't know about that.
Well, Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. So we're going to get straight to the whiskey, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
All right. So what we brought today for our first pour is something special that was just released by Woodford Reserve. It's their Masters Collection Chocolate Malted Rye. Have you had this before?
I have not. This is a new one.
Okay, so
now everybody, it is a bourbon. You know, they make it sound like it's a rye whiskey, but it's a bourbon.
It is a bourbon. It is a bourbon that has 15% rye in the mash bill that has been toasted extensively, I guess is the best way to say it, to a point where it gives off kind of a chocolate malted flavor. It's 90.4 proof. This bottle runs at the gift shop about $130, so it's not a cheap bottle, but it's definitely a special pour. So why don't we check it out?
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.
I tell you what, that chocolate is absolutely present, isn't it?
It is. Wow.
You pick it up right away. That almost coffee caramel, toffee just hits your tongue, and man.
Yeah, I think, I was surprised when I nosed it the first time. The cocoa was kind of prevalent. Definitely could pick it up, but man, when it hits the palate, pow! It's right there.
Yeah, it's first thing you take, unmistakable.
Yeah,
not a whole lot of rye on that back end. No pepper. Not a whole lot. Not
real peppery. You do get the typical caramel of a bourbon. I think you get a little bit of fruit in there.
Yeah, and you get a little spice on the back, but you're right, not that peppery hot bite that you normally get with a rye.
Not that punch in the mouth.
Yeah, but the toasted oak is there.
Yeah,
you get that.
They definitely did an excellent job over there at Woodford with this. I always look forward to their releases, and they make it pretty exciting time of year when they put these things out.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to visit Woodford, and I was with Elizabeth Bacall, and we were out climbing through the rick house, drilling barrels, and she drilled into one of these, said, "Hey, I want you to try something special." Of course, we didn't know it was going to come out as a Masters collection. We just thought, wow, that was interesting. So
Woodford does some really neat stuff with some of their Masters collection.
Yeah.
Some of the finishes.
Yeah, they've had some pretty interesting stuff, and I don't know how often they release those. I guess there's a schedule to it, but maybe at least every fall, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so what do you think?
Man, that's a
home run.
That's a home run right there.
I mean, when would you drink this, and what would you pair it with?
I'm kind of a purist with my bourbon, especially something like this. Something like this, I'd like just stand alone on its own, just maybe as dessert.
Yeah.
With a dessert course at the end of a meal, just neat. If you did anything, maybe just like one cube in it, just to open it up a little bit more. But it's definitely a standalone bourbon.
Yeah, I know their double oaked is kind of a desserty kind of bourbon.
I've always loved the double oaked.
Yeah, it's really good. Well, Josh, are you originally from Kentucky?
I am. Yes, I grew up in Louisville. Started in restaurants here at 14 and been in the restaurant biz ever since.
So how long have you known that's what you wanted to do?
Gosh, I get asked that a lot. And from the time I could climb up in a chair beside the stove with my grandmother, I was cooking. Just loved it. My mom said she'd bring me home from preschool and sit me down in front of cartoons. She'd come back in the room later on and I'd be watching a cooking show. So I just was always mesmerized by it. Always wanted to be a chef. Both of my grandmother's dad and mom's side, cooked constantly. They both baked a lot. So that's kind of how I started in the business, was really pastries. I always loved, especially holiday time, holiday baking.
So you started as a pastry chef?
I did. Started at Vincenzo's downtown at 14, and I actually started busing and working catering events. My mom worked there on catering, so I was able to get a foot in the door early. And, told the chef Augustine, I'm like, I really want to be a chef. I love to cook. I love to bake. So I started coming in after school. I'd catch the bus to Vincenzo's and did a lot of the grunt work in the pastry area, chopping, 11-pound blocks of chocolate and slicing cakes and whipping butter and doing a lot of the prep kind of stuff.
So how long did it take before you kind of took on that role?
So I was at Vincenzo's for a while, about a year and a half. From there, I worked at a few other smaller restaurants in town. One, the former pastry chef of Vincenzo's opened. And then Percini's, that was a big step in my career. Started there at 16, and at 18, I was the sous chef, pastry chef. So,
Okay.
Just fresh out of high school, nice, salary position for my age. I'd go in during the daytime and do the pastries and work the line at night, expedite, workstations, whatever needed to be done.
Yeah. So 18 years old, chef at a pretty prominent restaurant in Louisville. That's pretty good.
So
A lot of people don't get that kind of opportunity, do they?
So you took on that title as chef at that time? Is that when they said, hey, chef?
Yeah. So and while I was at my early years at Percini's around 16, 17, I was also working at Wildwood Country Club. I was pastry chef there at that young of an age. And the thing about Wildwood is I would just go in and do the pastries, and then I could leave. So then I would work Percini's in the evenings. But yeah, at 18, I had the title at Percini's of sous chef, pastry chef.
Wow. Now, what was your first job where you were the head chef?
First job as executive chef was Cafe Emily in St. Matthews.
How old were you then?
2002, 2003, around that area. So I was 22.
22 years old, and then you were the executive chef. That's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I get asked all the time, what culinary school I went to, what formal training I have, and, School of Hard Knocks. I just got into it early. By my senior year of high school, I looked at culinary school. I looked at JCC in town in Sullivan, but I just felt like I already, was into my career and had a great thing going, and just decided not to do it.
Do you feel like you missed anything?
I don't. Sometimes I regret it. But overall, it hasn't hindered my career. I think I would have gotten a lot more of international cuisine and, learned a lot of other things. And I've really stuck to my Italian roots and done Italian food for 26 years. And had I gone to school, I may have branched out a little bit more, but yeah, I definitely don't regret it.
Now you're hanging out in the back of them houses and stuff, back of house at restaurants and stuff. And, you're a young man back there in that kitchen. When was your first taste of bourbon? You're from Kentucky, so it had to be pretty early.
Yeah, definitely early. Like you said, being in the kitchen and, always being one of the youngest ones in the kitchen. I definitely had my first taste of bourbon, late teens.
You remember what that was?
Oh gosh. No, I can't remember what my first bourbon tastes were, but doing a lot of events in the industry. Some of my more memorable early, I've always loved Old Forester. Always kind of been one of my go-tos. And then Buffalo Trace. I like a lot of what Buffalo Trace does. A lot of their different brands. So those are definitely two that, always stood out to me. One of my first distillery tours ever was Maker's Mark. That definitely left an impression. Just such a beautiful property and the history that goes behind it. Dipping that first bottle, that's something you always remember.
You just went back there not too long ago, didn't you?
Yeah. About at least once a year, we do a big dinner there. And it's always, always fun. Makers is a great partner. We did a couple barrel picks last year here at the restaurant with their new private selection program. And that was really awesome.
So the restaurant here has quite an extensive bar, but in addition to that, do you have the ability to sell bottles directly as well?
We do not. We don't sell bottles directly, but we do have a, large bar and great selection of bourbon.
So you get a number of cases here. You can still go through them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And, we were on the bourbon trail back in the early days of that, when there weren't a lot of restaurants that had that caliber of a bourbon bar. So we've been doing it a long time.
Yeah. So how many bourbons do you have on your bar?
I would say all in total. I mean, we're in the, triple digits in the 100 plus range.
Have to check that out.
Absolutely.
Now, how long have you been here as the executive chef?
I started here in 2005. So going on 14 and a half years. The restaurant opened about a year before I came on board, and, I came on board July of 2005, and I came on as, sous chef, pastry chef. And, within about a year, I came into the role of executive chef. And I've always overseen the pastries. Pastries are kind of my passion. I love the exactness of pastries. I always say cooking's an art, baking's a science, and it really is. Pastries has always kind of played into my nature. Being exact with things and little OCD. So I've always enjoyed the pastries. And I became a partner in the restaurant in 2009, and been doing it ever since.
So what kind of what's the size of the kitchen staff here? How big of an operation is this? I mean, it's a big restaurant.
It is big restaurant. We seat about 250 on the weekends. We'll do a couple turns. A lot of private dining in our private dining room, private patio. We also have that blocked off and enclosed in the winter, as well as a lot of catering. We do a lot of catering out of the restaurant. Staff wise, depends on the season and time of year, but, we're going into the holidays right now. So I'll be, 8 to 10 cooks in the kitchen during the week and 10 to 14 on the weekend. And then plus, like I said, with the outside catering going on, I'll bring in extra help for that.
Wow. You're a busy man though.
It's very busy, and then, you throw the farm into the mix of everything else we have going on, and it keeps me busy.
Now you live out there on your farm is out there by me and Jim in Spencer County, right?
Yes.
Right across the Spencer County line from Shelbyville.
Right across Spencer line from Shelbyville on 44. Moved out there the same year I started at the restaurant, actually, 2005. Didn't plan on farming when I bought the property. I really bought it for the old farmhouse. Farmhouse was built in 1905. I just fell in love with it. It needed a whole lot of work. We have nicknamed it the Money Pit, fittingly. And, the house is on 10 acres of land. First year we were there, planted a dozen tomato plants, really just for home than anything. And brought the extra tomatoes to the restaurant, served them to some of the regular guests that I knew, and they just loved it. They thought it was so cool. They were like, so, the fact that you as the chef, grew this and brought it in and you're cooking it and serving it. It's just so neat. So I thought I could grow this a little bit. So in, 15 years time, it's grown from those dozen tomato plants to about 2.5 to 3 acres, depending on the season. Quite the operation now. We've invested more into equipment over time and, do things with irrigation now and with plasticulture for weeds. And, back in the old time, we made tomato cages for all the tomatoes. Now we do a Florida weave system with twine. So it's grown a lot. Last year alone, heirloom tomatoes, We planted 1,300 plants, 60 varieties. And it's as much work as it sounds like. It's pretty intense.
That's a lot. So that all feeds this restaurant.
Yes. Everything we grow comes to Volare. You know, we don't do farmers markets or anything like that. You know, we give away produce to neighbors and friends, that kind of thing.
Sure.
But other than that, everything we grow comes here.
So you love the farming life?
I do. I don't always love the early mornings after working at the restaurant at night, but I do enjoy, you know, just getting outside and, you know, hands in the dirt and just that sense of accomplishment you have from it.
Well, you always hear in the bourbon world in the bourbon and whiskey world, you always hear about terroir. Is it the same thing in the food world with your vegetables and all the things that come from the farm? You got that special flavor that just kind of, from this area?
Absolutely. And you know, the beautiful thing about Kentucky, tomatoes here taste better than they do from anywhere. I swear the flavor you get from tomatoes here is just amazing. Now you do have a short season. You know, you don't have the long kind of season you have in hotter climates, but that short season, just the intense flavors and, you know, the limestone on the ground, just like what it does for the bourbon, it does that for vegetables. Yeah. And you know, there's just nothing like a homegrown Kentucky tomato ripe right off the vine.
So what kind of a commitment is that in time to have a farm like that in addition to what you're doing here?
You know, it depends on the season. You know, tomato seasons is our hardest season. You know, tomatoes need a lot. I mean, we're out there every single day, 7 days a week. You know, you're picking daily, you're tying, you're watering, you're spraying. I mean, there's a lot that goes into the tomatoes. Spring and fall when we're doing, you know, our cole crops, you know, cabbage and cauliflower and lettuces and greens and kale, you know, that kind of stuff doesn't need the constant attention. So it's more, you know, planting and, you know, fertilizing and harvesting. You know, there's not the daily need like the tomatoes have. So in the spring and fall, I'd say, you know, 10, 15 hours a week is probably about average. And in the summer, in the heat of, you know, herbs and peppers and eggplant and squash and tomatoes, you know, all those things grow so fast and need, you know, daily attention. I mean, I'd say probably 30 to 40 hours a week on the farm. You know, my wife, the farm's her full-time gig. So she's always out there.
That's what
working.
I was going to ask you. Is it a family affair?
It is. You know, everybody asks all the time, they're like, you know, how many employees do you have on the farm? And I laugh. I'm like, it's just us. Okay. You know, people have a hard time grasping that with the restaurant and everything else going on. But, you know, our son Gibson, you know, he's 10 now and he gets out there and he helps like the cherry tomato picking. That's his job. You know, it's tough on us, all that bending over, picking those little bitty tomatoes. So that's one of his big things. But yeah, Lindsay's working on the farm 7 days a week. It's a lot of work, but it's like anything. It's like, you know, it's just like being in the restaurant business. If you're not passionate about it and don't love what you do, you know, it'd be miserable. But if you love it and enjoy it, you know, the hours, they go by quick.
So in addition to vegetables and those kind of things, do you also have animals on your farm? No livestock on the farm. You know, we've talked about it down the road and, you know, who knows long term. You know, I do a lot with certified Angus beef. I'm a brand ambassador for them. You know, you see by the cow tattoo on my forearm with the butcher chart, I'm pretty dedicated to the beef world. So, you know, we've said long term, I would love to get in some certified Angus beef stock and, you know, work more on the breeding and genetic side of it. So, you know, who knows in the future?
How many hours total between the restaurant and the farm are you putting in a day?
I mean, my typical day during the peak in tomato season, I mean, I'm out there in the garden by 7:30 or 8, and I get home from the restaurant by, you know, anywhere from 10:30 to midnight. So it's a long day. It's a 15, 16 hour day.
Now that'll make you want to grab a glass of bourbon and relax a little bit. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what do you usually? What's your couple bourbons you like to drink on?
You know, a couple of my go-tos, you know, just original 86 proof Old Forester. I think for something that you can buy anywhere, anytime, easy to get. I think it's got an amazing flavor. Price point's great on it. A few more of my go-tos, Maker's Cask Strength. I love the cask. You know, to me, that's Maker's. I'd pick up a bottle of cask over regular 46, just personally. Love them all, but I love the cask strength. A few of my absolute favorites. few of my favorites actually come out of Buffalo Trace, Rock Hill Farms. That's one of my favorite bourbons. Yeah, I tend to like a little sweeter, smoother profile, and the Rock Hill's phenomenal. George T. Stagg on the opposite end, something a little hotter, a little more intense.
That's a little fire there.
It is. And I tell people the first time they taste it, I'm like, you're going to get that punch, that heat up front, but the complexity of the flavors that are in that bourbon, just with the age and the proof, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And you can always add a little water if you need to.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Who does that? This has been a really big year for you. Is that right?
It has been. It has. Yes.
So you won Chopped.
Yes.
And you probably talked about a lot about that, so we won't go too much into that, but that brought a lot of fame to you. Is that correct?
It's Chopped's been great for business. No doubt. I mean, it has brought in people from all over the country into the restaurant. It's pretty crazy the impact it has. I'll go out into the dining room just to talk to tables, and a lot of people are in town, for tourism now with Louisville, especially with the whole bourbon thing. I've told people from out of town, bourbon has become for Kentucky what wine is for Napa Valley. I mean, it's amazing the impact it's had on tourism, bringing people into the state. And as the bourbon industry's grown, the restaurant industry's grown too. They go hand in hand. And, so now having as much of a broad customer base as we have, I hear people constantly, they're here in town for the bourbon tour, they're here in town for a convention, and they watch Chopped, and that's why they're here. So we've had a ton of new guests in this year because of it. Definitely been great for business. It's crazy thinking back to the Chopped thing. It seems like it's been so long now, but I guess it really hasn't. But for me, it was filmed in January of 2018 and aired January of 2019. So I had to keep that secret a whole year. So for me, it seems like it happened forever ago. But yeah, it was pretty wild.
I guess that's an absolute secret you have to keep too.
It is something like $1 million non-disclosure agreement. Yeah, helps. Yeah.
So that'll help you to be quiet.
Yeah,
right
exactly.
So do they allow you to tell your spouse?
I did tell my wife, but she's literally the only person that knew. I joke. We took our son to New York with us for that trip, and when I got done with the Chop filming that day, we waited for him to go to bed, and we popped a bottle of Vouv and celebrated, and pretty awesome. But yeah, I mean, I didn't even tell my mom. She had to wait and find out a whole year later.
So you're also honored this year as the chef of the year for the Certified Angus.
Yeah. That was just recently. They had their annual convention in Asheville, city I love. Great town. They honored me as chef of the year, and it was on like a CAB. It's on an international level, and honored me as the chef of the year. Great honor. As I said, they're a great brand partner. Been a proud Certified Angus beef ambassador for about 10 years now.
And you got 4 stars on your arm. What are those 4 stars for?
So the 4 stars are from Career Journal write-up many years ago. That was probably about 11 years ago. When the restaurant first opened, I believe we had like a 3-star review, and the next one that came around, we got our 4 stars. And myself and like 5 of my line cooks went that night, and we all got 4 stars. Everybody designed them a little different, got them in a different place, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's great. Well, I tell you what, Josh, what we'd like to do here is just keep sipping on our Woodford. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we want to see what you brought for us to drink.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. We would like to thank Tommy and Gwen Mitchell from Logheads Home Center for supporting this episode of The Bourbon Road. Logheads Home Center, nestled in the hills of Kentucky, is an industry leader in building handcrafted rustic furniture. Family owned and operated, they take pride in offering only the very best for their customers. The Logheads, and that's what they like to call themselves, are skilled woodcrafters who are passionate about creating rustic furniture for people who appreciate the beauty of natural wood. Owners Tommy and Gwen don't just sell the rustic lifestyle, they live it. And you can be sure that Logheads furniture will always be handcrafted in Kentucky by artisans who embrace the simple way of life. Loghead's rustic furniture is made from northern white cedar, a sustainable wood that's naturally rot and termite resistant. Its beauty and quality will add warmth to your earthy lifestyle for generations to come. Be sure to check out everything they have to offer at logheadshomecenter.com. And while you're at it, give Tommy and Gwen a shout on Facebook or Instagram at Logheads Home Center.
Josh, we're back. What'd you bring us to drink?
All right. So it's one of my new favorites, Old Forester 1910. I describe it as dessert in a glass. I mean, it is just phenomenal. The, toasted marshmallow and caramel and butterscotch you get when you drink this bourbon. Definitely something to be enjoyed on its own. We've got two really, desserty, sweet side bourbons today on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you know some of the backstory to the 1910 at all?
Not a lot. I know, they released the series of, different bourbons from different times that they've done. And, this was my favorite when I went down there and did a tasting of them.
This would be their almost a double oaked is when their bottling line in 1910 caught on fire. They had all that stuff ready to put in bottles and they had to put it back into barrels. And so when they brought it back out, they're like, well, this is really good.
So, with everybody coming out with these barrel finished whiskeys, right? They're kind of standing up and saying, hey, we were kind of the first to hit that second barrel, way back then. Now, it was because of a disaster that it happened.
Yeah, it was a fire, bottom line burn up.
But I guess the second barrel is a little different than the first barrel, and it picks up those caramelized sugars.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. You hit it all the notes on the head on this thing. I tell you, me and Jim we've drank this several times on the show, and personal, we both got bottles of it. And if I see a bottle, I try not to pass it up. I usually have to reach out and grab that thing. Like I got to take that home with me. But it never fails to please you, right?
That's right. I know Campbell Brown. He had talked about when they released the first release of the 1910 that they had no idea what the market would be on it, and they sold out. It emptied the shelves in a very little. So this year, I guess, was their second time releasing it, and there's a little bit more out there now. So
yeah, they were out of it for a while. I did a few events down at the downtown distillery, and it's something I always like to feature for like a dessert pairing, and they were out of it for a bit.
Yeah, it's a dark whiskey. I mean, it's a very dark whiskey. It definitely picks up a lot of color in that second barrel.
It does.
That's sweet. I definitely get the marshmallow on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, toasted, but not burnt.
Yep.
Yeah.
I always think creme brulee with this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I get that in there, and I tell that to people, and they're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, vanilla and caramelized sugar. I mean, it's all of that.
I guess you got to be a big guy to understand that. If I say something tastes like banana pudding, people are like, banana pudding? I'm like, it does. And
yeah.
That's what it tastes like.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
So Josh, you're doing farm to table too. You do a couple of those a year.
Yeah. A few farm to table dinners at Jep the Creed a year. It's been a lot of fun. It kind of has grown into a almost every other month during the farming season type thing. I think we have 5 on the calendar for next year. And, the heirloom tomato was probably my favorite. I'm partial to the heirloom tomatoes. It's just, you put so much work into something, and to see the finished product, it's really awesome. But they've been great dinners. And I've been able to feature stuff from all over the state in the dinners, catfish from around the state, and, shrimp from Kentucky State University's aquaculture program. The last one we did a lot of pawpaw in the dinner.
So can we tell everybody what a pawpaw is?
Yeah. So, they kind of call it the Kentucky banana. It almost has like a banana flavor and pulp to it. The fruit, it's kind of like looks almost like a mango from the outside. Dark green color. You crack them open, they have some big black seeds in them, and then the pulp is the part that you eat. But they're just amazing when they're ripe. Just phenomenal flavor. They're great in ice cream, sauces.
And if you're not from the area, a lot of people just don't know about it.
Yeah, people don't. And even people from the area, I feel like, pawpaws are making a comeback in the area. I feel like for a lot of years there, you never saw them on menus or heard people talk about them. But yeah, it's, to be something from Kentucky that almost has like that tropical fruit flavor to it. It's pretty amazing.
I even heard Jeff the Creed was making a spirit.
They do a pawpaw brandy. It is actually one of my favorite spirits they do. It's not a overly sweet brandy, and the pawpaw flavor is just phenomenal. It's so pronounced, and I've used it in a flambe before. I've soaked a cake with it like a rum cake, but more of a pawpaw brandy cake, and it's just great spirit.
So, if you had to describe your style of cooking, would it be a Southern style? Would it be a?
I definitely. Even here at the restaurant, we're Italian food, but there's a little Southern influence to it.
Yeah.
Into tomato season, we were featuring fried green tomatoes all fall this year, which everybody just loves. But I like to use, local ingredients, not just from our farm, but from a lot of other farms across the state. So a little Southern flair to a traditional Italian menu.
Do you feel like those of us in Kentucky are kind of Southern folk a little bit?
I do. My wife's family's from Southern Maryland, and even though they're not that much more north than us, we're definitely more Southern here.
Right. Yeah. I think we're kind of close enough to that border where everybody's like,
Yeah.
Till you get off the interstate.
Yeah.
And that country comes out.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of, I always think it's funny that so many Italian dishes have tomatoes in them and stuff, and tomatoes they're a native to the Americas and not native to Europe. I always find that very interesting, that how the Italians took the tomato and almost made it their own.
Yeah. Something I loved when we were in Italy a little over 3 years ago on our honeymoon now, and every single, even in the cities, everybody had their own little backyard garden. I mean, it was so cool that, every home cook wanted their own herbs at home and their own tomatoes at home. And it's pretty neat.
Isn't it that's weird how I think sometimes Americans, so fast paced life, they don't feel like they have time for it. And people at my work are like, I can't believe you and your wife put all that effort into having a garden.
Yeah.
How do you have time to do that? And I'm just like, it tastes so much better.
Oh, it does. When you guys have a big garden for home
people,
for yourselves. Yeah. But I tell people it's amazing the difference in taste. Even something as simple as a potato, as much work as they are to dig up a fresh potato versus one that's been, sitting in storage for months and months and months. It's unbelievable, the difference.
Yeah. I think it's a great thing to have, even if you have a small townhouse or something, or just a patio, to have some patio tomatoes.
Yeah. I always tell everybody, at least if nothing else, have a couple tomato plants and fresh herbs. Herbs don't take up a lot of room. They grow easily.
We thought we were going to have too much basil this year, and but we never seem to run out of it. That's the great thing, and we always love to have that tomatoes, basil, and some mozzarella. A little olive oil, pepper, salt, and pepper. Man,
there's nothing better in the summertime. I tell people that's all we eat at home, or either caprese salad or a BLT. I mean, it's one of those two about every day.
Yeah, you got my mouth watering here. Well, Chef, why don't you tell us a little bit about the menu here at the restaurant?
Menu here at the restaurant, it's a big menu and a lot of options. I try to have something for everyone. And whether you want to come in and have a lasagna or a chicken parmesan, some very just traditional, Northern Italian food. You can come in and have that. You can have, a lot of different veal dishes. The veal salt and boca is one of my favorite things on the menu. I do a roasted duck from Maple Leaf Farms from Indiana. Phenomenal roasted duck. Steaks and seafood as well. Every Friday I do this fun thing. I bring in fish from somewhere in the world, post it on Facebook and Instagram, and people love it. I have people tell me they wait all week to see what the Friday fish is going to be. So that's been a fun thing. And, being a, landlocked state, we've got great access to seafood here. And,
why is that?
The UPS hub's a big part of it. We can get stuff flown in from anywhere in the world overnight. So that definitely helps, us be able to source things from everywhere. But the fresh seafood here, the steak program, like I said, certified Angus beef, we're big on that. You can come in here and get a ribeye, which is always my go-to choice. I run those tomahawk steaks as a special often, big 32 ounce, 2 pound bone ribeyes. I did have that last night.
She was like, man, he's got those tomahawk. I know one of those things.
I'll have those from now until the end of the year. Holiday season is just a thing to have. But and then also on the menu, pastas. We make a ton of fresh pasta in-house. I've got one guy that comes in 6 days a week, and he makes pasta and pastries all day long. And those fresh pastas, there's just nothing like a fresh pasta.
And that's what he was back there making right now. Is some kind of maybe a pumpkin pasta. Is what it was, oranges looking. So I was. We've had a lot of pastas for specials lately. We've been doing a lot with butternut squash and pumpkin and different things like that. That was nice to see that. I walked back there today, and there is real homemade pasta being made back there. Yeah,
and it's like I said, it's every day. I mean, it's a big part of our menu, a big part of what guests come here for. We make everything from scratch in the kitchen, and we still cook everything a la minute, which means in the minute. So, you come in here, you get a chicken marsala or a veal limone, it's not some big batch of sauce we pre-made. It's made right there in that saute pan. It takes a little longer. It's a little more work, but gives you a way better finished product.
You made a ravioli one time, and I think it had a quail egg inside there.
Oh yeah, the duck egg ravioli.
I was like, how did he get that not to cook that entire? Because it was runny, and I still talk about, how you got that egg in there to not cook up.
Yeah, I do those especially every once in a while, and I love them. It's just so rich, that egg yolk and that sage brown butter. It's delicious.
So when you have family coming in from out of town or friends coming in from out of town and they're here for a day or so, and you want to take them out and show them Louisville, where do you guys go?
So, a couple of my go-tos, on the fine dining side, Jack Fry's has been one of my favorites for years and years and years. Just consistent. They do a great job. I love the atmosphere. It's a small, quaint little restaurant. Love the history of it. Other than that, lunch wise, we love like Taco Luchador. Just, great couple street tacos and some corn and, great quick lunch. Big sushi fan. So we do the sushi restaurants in town quite a bit.
You a museum fan, or you like going to see the shows downtown, or
being in the restaurant biz, you don't get a lot of time to do much. When we travel, I'm a big antique guy. It's one of the things about the old farmhouse, just the history and the character of it. So it's all full of antiques. So I have fun with that.
Are you a picker?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. My wife would call me a hoarder, but I'm a picker.
Yeah. Now, do you guys ever go over to Karis's grocery right there by your guys' house?
Oh yeah. Yeah. They do a great job. Love them. Awesome family, great burger. We'll go there and grab a burger. Yeah. I dropped them off some tomatoes this summer when we were, right in the thick of tomato season.
Yeah, that's Karis's grocery. If people don't know, it's outside of Shelbyville, about halfway between Shelbyville and I guess Taylorsville, and it's just a step back into the 50s.
It is, and it's like 4 miles from our house. The grocery store was originally owned by the same people that own our old farmhouse.
Wow. Yeah. So you got a tie to that thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. It's just out there in the middle of nowhere.
It is.
Yeah.
So what's your ideal comfort food?
I would say like on the comfort food side, like Thanksgiving dinner, I'm a turkey dressing, gravy kind of guy. I get asked a lot of times like what my last meal would be, and it's always a ribeye steak.
Yeah.
Nice heavy char, mid-rare ribeye. Just nothing better than that to me.
You like beer? You drink beer?
Not a big beer drinker. Yeah. If I drink a beer, I want a beer you can kind of chew. I want, something thick, a stout. Again, I'll have a Guinness.
Love that Guinness.
Yeah. I'm a red wine with dinner guy or bourbon anytime.
Yeah. You've spread love with the bourbon because you've did something Maker's Mark, right? You did something with Old Forester. You've done some stuff, charity work with Angels Envy. You've been around the block. You went to Jeb the Creed and do stuff with them. You've got a pretty good tie in with everybody in the bourbon community.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that come about?
I guess just like I was saying, as the bourbon world's grown, the restaurant business has kind of grown with it. And we have such great partners from all the distilleries that work with the restaurant and do dinners here and bring people in when they're out of town. And we definitely work with everybody a little bit.
And most of it's for charity stuff, right? Like March of Dimes.
Yeah. So the March of Dimes event, we just had that for this year. Great event, raised over $300,000 for March of Dimes in one night. It's called the Signature Chef's Auction. And this was my 12th year as lead chef. Lead chef really just means I kind of coordinate the restaurants that are coming. And we had 33 this year. All independent restaurants in town. Everybody brought a tasting out of some kind of dish on their menu or not on their menu. And we auctioned a big dinner at the event with Rabbit Hole Distillery. So that was pretty fun. Just did a big piece with Rabbit Hole and James Beard Foundation. So we partnered up on that, donated a dinner for 20 at the distillery, 6-course sit down with cocktail pairings.
Wow.
So that'd be a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So you're always doing something. You did something for restaurant workers out of work too, right? You did something
for Apron. Yeah. We do a big Apron fundraiser at Maker's Mark every year. And, I think, we had like 220 people this year come through for that. I took the dessert course, which, like I said, pastry background. A lot of chefs either love or hate doing pastries. Since I love it, I normally volunteer for that. It's always in the Chihuly room too at the distillery, which is one of my favorite spots at Makers.
So that Chopped experience, I'm sure that was pretty stressful. And is Chopped, if people don't know, they give you some weird ingredients, right?
Absolutely. It was, I've told people it was one of the most challenging, stressful things I've done in my 26-year career, but it was also a lot of fun. What you don't really see from watching the show is the camaraderie that goes on between the chefs. I've made lifelong friends with the other chefs that did the show with me. You don't really understand how stressful and strenuous the day is. So, as you get chopped, you get sent home for the day. So being there till the end, it was a 15-hour day. So, long day in the studio. There's no smoke and mirrors when it comes to like the baskets and the ingredients and the time limit. It really is. You open that basket and that clock starts.
So you didn't know what was inside that basket?
They really tell you nothing. You don't even know the theme of the show until you do that first basket and they announce it.
And what was the weirdest thing that you had to cook with?
I'd say the weirdest was my dessert basket. Sea urchin and a dessert. Pretty crazy thing to have to do. But the judges loved it. I did a sea urchin ice cream. I had never used a commercial ice cream machine like that before. So that was stressful on top of making something that I'd never made. But it was, it was just crazy experience, a lot of fun, a lot of stress, but awesome to do.
We actually watched that last night. I don't know why we were watching. I got home and my wife's watched. That's what she had on TV.
Oh yeah.
But it was Chopped Junior. And they had ketchup soda, and they had a cotton candy hot dog that they had to cook with. And I was like, that is so gross. But she made a burrito out of her ingredients. For that age, I think she was like 12 to I think they had like 30 minutes to make that. And I was amazed. I was like, I always think I'm a pretty good cook, but if you did that to me, I don't think I could come up with something that tasted good.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy. My appetizer basket was pretty easy. The ingredients I had, it was a pretty nice basket, I would say. And that 20 minutes for that appetizer round, I mean, 20 minutes goes by so fast. I mean, you feel like you look up and the clock's just done. Going into that appetizer round, you don't know where anything is in the kitchen. It's just nuts. And then even 30 minutes for entree and dessert. I mean, it's a very little time to, open a basket of ingredients that, some of them you've never even seen or used in your whole career. And I have to come up with something.
If they called you up and said, come on back.
I'd probably say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty enjoyable for you to compete like that.
Yeah. And it was, great thing for the restaurant, great thing personally. And then great for the state. I was real proud to represent Kentucky on the show.
Absolutely.
So you're doing those fish every Friday, right? And I'm sure some of our listeners want to know, they see those Facebook pictures of you holding up these gigantic fish. You're a rather large man, right?
Yeah.
But some of those fish got to weigh somewhere in the 50 to 100 pound range.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest one I've ever brought in was 134 pound tuna from California. And I tell people, I'm a power lifter. I lift weights every day before work. A 100-pound dumbbell is real easy to move around. 100-pound fish is very awkward and hard to hold up. Sometimes those 120 pound fish, I mean, it's a job just getting them up there for a picture and then, breaking them down, flipping them around on cutting boards. It's a workout.
So Josh, where can we find you on social media?
So on Facebook, I have a chef page, Chef Josh Moore, and on Instagram, it's Joshua D. Moore.
And for the restaurant?
And then the restaurant on Instagram is Volare_Italian_restaurant.
Wow. So if you're in Louisville, and don't miss out. I know we've come down here. It's my wife's birthday, and you came out and brought her dessert out and stuff, and she just thought it was the most amazing thing. And I'm sure you make all the guests feel that way. So we appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. Don't forget the extensive bourbon menu they have here, right?
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on, and appreciate the tasting of a new delicious bourbon from Woodford.
Very interesting, wasn't it?
It was. I'm going to have to get a bottle of that for home.
Yeah. Well, we really enjoyed what you brought as well. It's one of our favorites. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you, Josh. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
We do appreciate all of our listeners, and we'd like to thank you for taking time out of your day to hang out with us here on the Bourbon Road. We hope you enjoyed today's show, and if so, we would appreciate if you'd subscribe and rate us a 5-star with a review on iTunes. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Bourbon Road. That way you'll be kept in the loop on all the Bourbon Road happenings. You can also visit our website at thebourbonroad.com to read our blog, listen to the show, or reach out to us directly. We always welcome comments or suggestions, and if you have an idea for a particular guest or topic, be sure to let us know. And again, thanks for hanging out with us.